So today we have a London vlog. Aren't you lucky? You actually get to see the city where I'm from for once. And with me, German pals, Sergio.
Hello.
And Dominik, who I'm sure the majority of you know. I'm going to show them the city. You know, the highs and the lows, the happy and the sad. We will probably go on a hop-on, hop-off bus tour, so there'll be lots of touristy sites for you. Big Ben, Houses of Parliament, Buckingham Palace, you know, those kind of things. So yeah, hope you enjoy this video and I shall see you soon.
Today we shall be having a voiceover. I know, we've never had one of those before. I just thought it might be more entertaining for you guys to actually hear about me talking about London as opposed to just showing you and having a load of music over the top of it. So we start here in the Shakespeare Pub, which is just outside London Victoria Station. We just wanted to get to a pub quite quickly, eat some food, have a couple of drinks before setting off on our London travels. The food was typical pub grub really. I think I had fish and chips, which is a definite favourite of mine. Here we are standing just outside the Shakespeare Pub, waiting for our hop-on, hop-off bus. As you can see, we were blessed with glorious weather just for once. The stereotype of British weather is rather accurate. It rains a lot of the time. Look, it's Dominik. And that's Sergio. That's Eve. Sexy, sexy. We're on to Buckingham Palace. This is just the side of it, actually. We didn't go round the front, so I don't have a fantastic view of the palace front, but they're very easy to find on Google if you would like to know what Buckingham Palace looks like. This is just a side entrance. Here we have a nice view of the River Thames. You can see it's a little bit windy by my fellow passengers' hair flying in the wind, but it still was a lovely day to see all the sights. Just a small note, I don't know in-depth history about all of these buildings. This is just going to be a quick, this is that. I tried to get as much footage as possible of famous buildings, but also of pretty buildings. Now this is of course the Houses of Parliament, a very, very famous building for many reasons, mainly being this is the home of the British Parliament. It is where our government debate topics and pass laws and repeal laws, and essentially where stuff gets done. The building itself is actually called the Palace of Westminster. Built in 1006, destroyed in 1834 by a fire and rebuilt in the early 1800s. And here we have Westminster Abbey, one of Britain's most notable religious buildings. It is steeped in royal and monarchical history. Since the coronation of William the Conqueror in 1066, all coronations of kings and queens of Great Britain and Northern Ireland have been within Westminster Abbey. There have not only been many weddings here, but also funerals too. The relics of Edward the Confessor reside within. It is not only monarchs who are buried in and around the chapel. Geoffrey Chaucer, Oliver Cromwell and Isaac Newton and Charles Darwin also lie within the abbey. The London Eye gives a fantastic perspective over the entire city. Residing on the South Bank, right by the London Aquarium actually, it's wonderful. To go up, you can really see for miles and miles around as long as it's a clear day. Again, British weather does have its downfall. The lion is often seen throughout English history and British history. It is seen as a mark of chivalry and is very, very heavily associated with the British monarchy, along with football, you know. 3 lines on a shirt and all that. Waterloo Station is quite impressive to see from the front, obviously named after the famous battle. London architecture really is beautiful. We have buildings that are older than the USA itself. We have pubs that are older than the USA. But the majority of the buildings that you can see are usually Georgian or Victorian because a lot of things got destroyed in the Great Fire of London of 1666. And here we have the Australian Embassy on our right hand side, and this beautiful building here is the Royal Courts of Justice.
Vlogception. I'm the Great Stone. I'm the Great Stone. Good morning. Did I mention I was the Great Stone Dragon?
For any of you that didn't actually get that, Indi and I were quoting from the film Mulan, which is one of my favourite films of all time, so if you are a Disney fan and you've never seen that, go and see it. Obviously it has nothing to do with London, but you know, there was a dragon.
demon barber of Fleet Street.
So Fleet Street in London is not only famous for its newspapers and the printing press, it is also famous for Sweeney Todd, the story of the demon barber of Fleet Street who cut open people's necks as he shaved them and cut their hair, and then they got put into Mrs. Lovett meat pies. So do go and check out the film with Johnny Depp if you haven't seen that. Here we have St Paul's Cathedral, one of the most famous landmarks that you can see across the London skyline. It really is an impressive figure.
Dominik, it's you.
What?
It's you.
Simple.
It's me.
It's you.
Hey.
Feed the bird.
And Queen Victoria.
Feed the birds. Tapping.
As you could just tell from my terrible singing, the steps you just saw are very famous in the film Mary Poppins, when the bank's children want to go and feed the birds, and Mary Poppins sings them a song later in the evening about the bird woman and her being famous for selling bags of seeds and stuff to feed the pigeons that still frequent St Paul's today. There has actually been a religious building on this site dating back from AD 604. But the present cathedral we see now dates from the late 17th century, and it was constructed after the Great Fire of London in 1666.
A little bowler hat. He's got his own little trolley.
Well, it should have.
It's an honour to wear a bowler hat.
Only some few lucky people.
This building here is called the Shard, so named as it looks like a shard of glass, and it looks over London, and it's the tallest building within the city. You get a very good view of Tower Bridge, which you can see in the background there, and that is HMS Belfast floating along the Thames. I say floating, she sits there, but still, you get a very good view. Here are some clips of us going over Tower Bridge itself. It's really fascinating to look at the architecture. It's so intricate and it's such an old bridge, you do wonder how it's still standing. The bridge officially opened in 1894, making it well over 100 years old. And it's beautiful to look at, and it's quite a spectacle when it opens up to let ships come through from the River Thames underneath. You also get a pretty good view from the bridge of the Tower of London. On the left hand side of it is the Gherkin building, and named as such because it looks like a giant gherkin. The Tower of London is very old, usually remembered as a prison and an execution tower and various other horrible things that took place here, and it dates back from the reign of William the Conqueror in 1066. The crown jewels are still kept on display within the tower and can be seen to this day. Here we have a brilliant view of the Thames, really. The Thames is one of the most famous rivers within the UK and was used as not only a source of drinking water but was also a sewer up until late Victorian England, hence why the plague was so rife within London. Covered in scaffolding up there is Big Ben. Actually, the bell is called Big Ben, not the actual clock tower itself. Here is Parliament Square, located just outside the Houses of Parliament / the Palace of Westminster. There are often protests going on here because it's right outside the government and they think they'll be listened to. Look, a typical English phone box! Yay! This monument is called the Centre Path and was created in 1920 to remember all lives lost during the First World War and has come to commemorate also the Second World War. Here we have Nelson's Column, an infamous figure. He was one of the most famous naval officers and naval victors that the British Navy had ever seen, most famous for his battles in the Napoleonic Wars and the decisive victories held under his leadership. He resides over Trafalgar Square, and you can see the National Gallery, which holds fantastic artwork in the background there. The Canadian Embassy here looked really, really beautiful. It's a lovely looking building. We like the Canadians, we do. They are a good bunch. Cockspur Street. Here we have a famous statue of the infamous Florence Nightingale, very famous for her nursing work in the Crimean War and the observations she made about hygiene and changes to the nursing practice that are still in use to this day. Look at all these British flags. Wow, you don't normally see them that often. Maybe it was for the royal wedding. I'm not really sure. Now this is Piccadilly Circus, very, very famous, that screen there of advertising so many different things. But I think I'm going to leave this video here for now, because it's over 10 minutes long, which is a bit of a slog for you guys to watch in general. So do look out for my London vlog part 2, and let me know if you've enjoyed this kind of format of me speaking over the top. That's Shaftesbury Avenue, by the way, just down there. That's where a lot of the theatres are. So I'll leave you in Piccadilly Circus and pick up next time. Thank you for watching.